Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of The Testing Room, where three of the gaming industry's best video game consultants who have never actually consulted on a video game bring you new topics each and every week. As always, I'm Alex, a.k.a. The Godfather.
I'm Christian, a.k.a. Pseudo45.
I'm Preston, a.k.a. Senpai.
Okay.
I'm the oldest of the group. Everyone here looks up to me. They all treat me with so much respect. I'm Senpai. And I've been playing a lot of Persona 3.
How much older are you? When's your
I'm
birthday?
like
January
2 or 3
6th.
months
January
older than
6th.
you.
Yeah.
Like 2 months older than you.
You're less than 2 months older than me.
older.
I mean, you're right. You're not wrong. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. Touche. What were you going to say, Christian?
Nope, just no one, just need to be very clear here. I can't speak for Alex. I've never used that term when talking to Preston, and we will not be doing that going forward.
I actually think
respect.
we should only call him Senpai. Why not? Yeah. Why not?
Especially in the context of him using it from Persona and how weird that.
No, stop it.
Look, in my line of work, I live by this saying of like, it's not dirty until somebody makes it dirty.
Yeah, and
right?
Persona was
Because,
the
like,
context that made it dirty.
No.
Well, you know, it like for me,
Reasonable.
where I just kind of speak for a living, like, you're gonna say stupid stuff that when you put enough words together, it's gonna come out, and somebody's thinking like phrasing, but it's not bad until somebody makes it bad.
Yeah, and he made it bad by mentioning the context of Persona.
No,
but he
they
did
use it
though.
I think you made it bad when you said I refuse to call him that.
No.
That's correct.
Because your eyes also opened up when he was like, I've been playing a lot of Persona recently, and you even looked like, I'll be moving right past that one. Yeah, so thank you for proving my point, and we can keep going now.
Fair enough. All right. Well, hey everybody. I feel like it's been a long time since we've recorded.
We doubled up on
It
the
has
last
been.
week, yeah, because we did D&D and podcast in 1 week.
That's true.
been a minute.
My weeks have gone together. I've traveled more consistent weeks in a row than I have since like pre-pandemic. I've been on the road for the last 4 out of 5 weeks, maybe 5 out of 6 weeks. I don't recall. I'm on the road again Monday for a week. Then I'm finally home for a week, and then I'm on the road again for a week and maybe 2 or 3 in a row. So I forgot what it was like doing this sort of work before pre-pandemic, and now that I'm back to doing it again, I just want to be home. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm very,
I feel ya.
very over it. I've had many opportunities recently to be social police on airplanes. I've told people to stop, like people trying to exit from the back. The other day, last night actually, it was late when I got home. People were trying to exit from the back, and I had to literally like stand up from my middle seat and just yell at somebody and say, "Stop! We don't all rush from the back. That's not how things work. It will literally make everyone slower." To which point somebody was like, "Thank you," and then stepped out in front of them, and then we made them wait. I've had plenty of things like that. I had another time on a plane where somebody was being an a-hole. And I also stood in the aisle and let like 3 people from the front walk all the way back to get their bags and then go all the way forward again before I kept moving, because people just need to know. And then I've had good times on a plane where I had an entire row to myself on like a 3-hour flight, and then the girl beside me had the entire row all to herself too, and it was amazing. We both just kind of sat sideways.
There's few things on this earth that are pure joy, and that's one of them. That is
when you get like nobody in the middle, you're like victory. But like if it's just you and the whole row.
Yeah,
game
you're
on.
Right, yeah, if there's nobody in the middle, you're like, okay, at least I know I'm going to be comfortable. Like if this is, I'm not interested in sitting next to a stranger, but at least I'll be comfortable while doing it. Getting a whole row to yourself, you're like, and then the plane starts to move. There is a sense of relief that washes over you that is like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's up there. It is up there in the brain chemical goodness.
Yeah, you get your drink and your snacks, and you're like, I'm just gonna pull down the tray in the middle seat and use that tray, not have to worry about my tray. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah.
So anyway, it was. Yeah, so it seems like it's been a long time since we recorded, but we are back. And yeah, what have you guys been up to?
I can go first.
We guys skip comment corner?
No. That's what the what have you been up to? I thought you would say like, well, in comment corner.
You are
that's
such
exactly
a liar.
what it was. Well, I don't want to hear it, Christian. You just said no after you said you were going to go first, so you also forgot.
But I'm not pretending that I didn't forget.
Anywho, this week's episode is proudly sponsored by Comic Headquarters. Visit Comic HQ STL today, where you can contact them and order that trade paperback or hardcover that you've been looking for. Or give them a call at 314-433-5449. Let them know that the testing room sent you, and you can get 10% off your order. As far as comments, let's see here.
I want Jake to know that because it's been cold everywhere I've gone, like even Texas was like 45 degrees this week. I only have like 3 comfy hoodies, and that's what I go to work in because like we're such a close-knit team and our work doesn't require me to be in front of people. Like I don't have to do business casual when I go to work. It's literally just dress how you want. Yeah. So I've been a walking billboard for his shop all over cities across the U.S. the past 5 weeks. So there you go.
Got to put in marker right below it. Ask the testing room sent you get 10% off.
Yeah. The only recommendation I might make, like if we can make a special edition like Alex hoodie, would be like just slap your phone number on the back of it or something, and that way people can call you.
Put something there that advertises it more than just your name.
But maybe slow your roll on that one, Jake. Like before you start getting your wheels turning, because remember the stories that he was just telling about being rude to people on the airplane. You don't want your phone number associated with that.
You don't want your phone number attached to it.
Yeah, maybe slow that one.
Not rude. Social police. There's a difference.
No. I'm saying from the point of view of the person who would be calling, they would see you.
Sure.
I agree with you. You know that you have my full support. I'm just saying that the person who's calling, they would be very upset with you.
That's fair. That's funny.
All right, we did get one comment on the YouTubes from Mr. Odin himself, Jake. Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time commenter.
That's not true.
Not at all. In regards to the Suicide Squad game, if the whole game is just the Suicide Squad having the powers of the Justice League, why not just make a Justice League game? Seems kind of fucking silly to me. So they don't.
It's a really good question.
They don't get the powers of the Justice League. They steal tech from the Justice League's headquarters. So, while Captain Boomerang has a speed gauntlet, he can only do little teleportation stuff. Harley Quinn took the bat grappling hook, which conveniently came with a bat drone for her to swing around with. And then you had a King Shark. What did he take? I can't even fucking remember what he took this time.
This feels like a lot of tomato here.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
I would rather have a Justice League game, but I think they're like, they're not as powerful because they only have like small pieces of it. Either way, I'm not defending this game. It's a shame.
So, to my knowledge, I believe that it was supposed to be a Justice League game at one point. Not, like, I remember there was now who knows if maybe those rumors were this, but I remember that after the Batman game, there was a lot of talks that I remember seeing online, other places that said
a Superman game.
It was supposed to be a Justice League game. Yeah. Like, people thought for sure that's what was coming. Now, in some ways, it is a Justice League game, right? Because they're the villains in the game, so they're involved in some way. But my understanding is that at one point it was a Justice League project that ended up morphing into whatever this is.
Do you think the reason it morphed into whatever this is because people at WB and everywhere else for some reason think that Harley Quinn is actually more marketable than other superheroes right now?
No, especially because the fact of the matter is Superman is up there with Spider-Man as far as marketability.
I agree, but don't you feel like they think that? Like, if you look at the movies and stuff, the way they shoehorn her into things, like maybe that's what they were thinking?
No, I think the reason that WB did this is because the same reason why they ended up trying to, or the trajectory that the Lord of the Rings games ended up taking with them. I think that WB straight up just doesn't know how to get out of their own way. Like, look, as much as Rocksteady has had people leave and come and go throughout the years, fact of the matter is this is still the studio that brought you Arkham Asylum and Arkham City for whatever that's worth. Like, I never played that one, but from my experience, Arkham Asylum, which is a fucking fantastic game, right? Rocksteady has pedigree and they know how to make a game. And the same is true for Monolith, who did the Lord of the Rings games, the Shadow of Mordor games. But WB finds a way that as soon as a company, or as soon as one of their studios starts, that does anything well, whatever their next project is, and then every project after that becomes worse and worse by giant steps each time. And I honestly think that this was right around the time that I would not be surprised if this is what happened. I would not be surprised if they were doing a Justice League game and they were trying to figure out a way to make Superman compelling in some way, right? Which is hard in a video game form, right? Because it's the same problem that people have when they write Superman, which is how does he not solve every problem instantly? Because you've written yourself into a corner of he can solve every problem by snapping his fingers, basically. So how do you write around that? So what probably happened was right around the same time that there was, because WB owns all this stuff, there was probably early productions on the Suicide Squad movie. And if you remember, leading up to that, it bombed very hard, but leading up to it, people were very hype on that movie. Like, they thought, David
Ayer says his cut of the movie, much like the Snyder cut, is better than what they let him release.
But you know what I mean, right? Like, you remember, that movie bombed and everybody has a poor view of it now. But before that, people were genuinely like, oh, this could be good. Like, I kind of want to go check this out. This could be really cool, right? Like, however they do it. So I think that it was something similar, or they probably just were like, this is what you're doing now. Like, I'm sure WB came down straight from the top and was like, you're going to do this now, and we'll be riding so high off of our wave of when this movie comes out, and then all of the things that will trigger down the line, that having this game also be there, we're just going to be rolling in money. And then in true WB fashion, it did not. And especially you can tell because of the way they monetized the fuck out of that game. Like, I think just WB got in their own way, like they always do.
It is weird though. Like, we're in this weird time where people think everybody wants to play villains. It's gonna be more fun to be the bad guy when you play and stuff. But honestly, if you would have just taken Superman out of the equation by having Brainiac coming down and doing something to take control of Superman and make him the big bad, it would have been fun to be the Flash. It would have been fun to be Batman against that. Yeah. Yep. That'd be way cooler than these knockoff anti-heroes that kind of have half their powers but not really.
Level, you break Superman out, you be Superman, it's just a badass fucking scene of you just fucking tearing shit up. It'd be great.
Yeah, and then yes, that is the better game, right? Like, it's a more compelling game to have Superman be out of the equation so you don't have to worry about that problem. And then when you break him out, the last level of that game is you just face rolling an entire thing as Superman. Like, I think that's a better game, right? But I'm not even 100% sure that game wasn't on the table at some point. But
they just made the mistake of not consulting the best video game consultants to have never consulted on that game.
That is true, because the mistake they made, they say now is all intent and purposes, that game's dead. Like DOA already. But they have no player base and
it's WB though, man. It's what they did with the second Shadow of War game, right? Like, they had that game, or Shadow of Mordor game. It's called Shadow of War. They had that game come out, and they had those loot boxes and all the different microtransactions and all that stuff. It absolutely murdered that game to where nobody wanted to play it, to the point where they said, okay, fine, you guys win, and they pushed an update and removed all of that stuff out of it so that people would actually go and try to play the game again. And that studio, Monolith, has not released another game since then, and the only game they have is that they're the ones that are working on whatever this Wonder Woman game ends up being. But now that game, first of all, we haven't seen anything from that game other than it got announced the last time it was shown at the I think it was the Game Awards or whatever. But if you don't think that they're going to have to completely probably restart on that game or take a huge chunk of it out, because it probably had just as bad, if not more, monetization that Suicide Squad game has in it. And they're right now probably trying to have to either rip all of that out or find a new clever way to hide it. Or
do you trust them to make a Wonder Woman game that either isn't A, way too sexual and over the top to appease the neckbeards, or B, like the opposite way that pisses people off? Like, they need to make Wonder Woman strong and feminist and stand on her own sort of thing. I don't think there's a chance in hell they handle that well.
So that's the problem, is that, like, if you were asking me in a vacuum, do I think Monolith has the chops to pull it off? Yeah, because I think that that especially that first Shadow of Mordor game was very good, right? Like, I think if you were asking me if that studio can make a good game, the answer is yes, right? Like, I think they totally could. Do I think that WB being over them has any shot of doing anything well? Absolutely not. No. Okay. Because WB has a proven track record of just getting in their own way all the time. Much like they are one of those platform holders or the IP holders that I think that are like, they design from the top down. Like they executives in boardrooms are making decisions on what has to go in a game, and they just bark those orders down at people.
Just look at what they're doing with movies and shows too. Like, apparently that one like Wile E. Coyote versus Acme whatever movie or show was going to be great.
Yeah,
the internet was like coming out.
It was incredible.
Yeah, well, the internet's like, that's going to be a fucking amazing, and like apparently they're not doing that anymore. But I think
there was somebody, I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody who saw a showing, like saw a showing of it, or a screening of it, and was like, this is incredible.
Look how shitty Space Jam 2 was. You had free money, like just do a good another Space Jam, and you just ruined it.
Yeah, fucked it up. That's what I mean. They
don't know how to handle their properties.
Yeah, it's like Sony and Spider-Man. There's just absolutely no. You can just bet yourself and be like, no, this will be bad, because it's always been bad. And then if it happens to be either mediocre or good, you can just be pleasantly surprised that they, like, that's what happened with, by the time Shadow of Mordor came around, everybody was like, does WB really got it in them? Like, is it? And it's like, oh, well, it's a different studio. It's Monolith. So they do the one game. It turns out really well, and it blows the whole world up. Like, everybody was talking about that game.
Out of it. Mm-hmm.
Right. So everybody, and it was not, and if people are like, oh, we had no idea it was going to go this well. Well, that was the beginning of the end for you. As soon as it went well was when WB started fucking homing in on you and was like, that's it. They're just the worst. They're one of them. Yeah, they're just awful.
They're bad. Take great things, make them bad.
I mean, dude, there was a whole situation where we were supposed to, like, somebody shared, like, a couple images. They were like, I'm never going to be able to work on this, so I'll show it now, but this is what I would have done for this potential Batman Beyond movie that I was going to be able to make. And there was, like, some images that came out of it, and it looked so fucking cool. And I'm like, yep, it makes sense that we don't have that, because that'd be good. So why would we get that?
Yeah.
It is pretty amazing. Allie and I were talking about, like, Madam Web earlier today, and I know Jake saw it, gave his feelings on it. His feelings are right along the line of everybody else's feelings, that are like, not only is it a bad movie, but it's like, it's not goofy bad, it's just boring bad, which is like the worst bad it could be. Like, it's just boring.
Yeah, it wasn't morbing time, apparently.
Right. And and it was among the lowest rated, but it's so bad that Sony is now in talks with maybe getting Marvel to, rumors say, getting Marvel to help come back in and, like, redeem it. But, like, there's no redemption, guys. Like, nobody's gonna now take these characters in other movies and be like, oh yeah, like, Leto's back as Morbius, and like, and how do you mess it up? Because, like, these stories are written, and that's the thing I'll never understand. You have all of the stuff you need to just follow and make something good, and you can't do the bare minimum.
Well, I think part of that, right, is probably, and I don't know, but I would assume that, like, whatever the director is or whoever is putting their stamp on it, they probably don't want to just follow it, like the source, like whatever the source material is, because that probably doesn't. This is just my assumption. I don't know. I'm not one of these people, but I would assume that is not fulfilling creatively if you're just basically, figuring out a way to cut together somebody's work to fit onto a 2.5 hour movie.
Tell
or
that
whatever,
to Zack
right?
Schneider.
Yeah, but who are you worried about fulfilling creatively? You're a studio worried
Yourself.
about making money.
I'm saying from the director.
But you can find anybody that can take a paycheck, right? Like, if they're not going to fulfill the direction of the studio and the writers, like, you can find anybody to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Speaking of good Spider-Man, I in my travels, I'll quickly share this. So the best way to watch a movie now, I found it. It is in Vision Pro on an airplane, because it puts you in a theater, and I can choose where I want to sit. And I'm not kidding when I tell you the experience of this was so good that I came out of it when they were bringing drinks by. And the only reason I knew they were bringing drinks because, like, they broke through, like, the immersion, like, I could see them. I came out of that, and I knew I was on a plane, but, like, I did have that moment where I kind of forgot, like, I forgot how close the seat was beside me. I forgot that there was someone beside me. Like, it was bonkers. All that to say, the two movies I chose to watch on said plane was Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, or whichever, like the two animated Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I felt just like I did in the theater watching them, because again, I wasn't distracted by anybody else. Cried at both of them. Yeah. Luckily you had the Vision Pro blocking out your tears. That's what I mean, though. But it was so good because, like, I wasn't just sitting on a couch and didn't have all this distraction around me. Like, I was back in the theater watching those things for the first time. I couldn't hear anything.
The person next to him sees like lips quivering.
I was so immersed in that movie. They're so good.
This is all I can think of is somebody being this close to their phone. Right. This is the photo that they post right after this. Is going this close to their phone, their eyes being like this, and then there's like a little text line that's under here, and it's like, I'm almost positive the guy next to me is crying inside his goggles right now. Both of those movies are perfect. They're so good. So good. The soundtracks are fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
God, dude, if that was me next to you, I don't know what I would have done.
You wouldn't do anything. I'm not like bawling. I'm not just like hyperventilating, sort of crying. Like it wasn't that. Like
I would have scared you
that normally.
Yeah.
Was there like lip quivering at all?
No.
It was just a couple like
little tearing up.
Cinematic tears. Okay. First of all, when Preston said lip quivering, you didn't fight him on it, so I assumed that there was at least that. But that's what I'm saying is, if I had looked over and seen you like either holding, but like if I'm looking and I can tell on your face by like your muscles and things that you're holding back tears, I don't know if I'd have been like, I think I might have just looked at a stewardess and like, is there a different open seat? I gotta get out of here. This is weird. I can't like. I don't know what's happening next to me, and I can't see what's happening next to me.
Next step is to be watching porn. I don't know what's going to happen then. I gotta get
but
out of here.
I am uncomfortable with
weird.
the crying
that'd be
next
weird.
to me.
I watched Dune. Dune was incredible on it too. Trying to watch Dune 1 before Dune 2. But yeah, good Spider-Man movies exist. Good superhero movies still exist.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the big companies are having trouble popping out good superhero content.
They're idiots.
For some reason.
Can I ask you guys a question? And then Jake, I want Jake to answer this as well.
Well, Jake's not here, so.
But we're talking to him because we know that he's going to be listening to this.
Let me dial him up real quick. Give me a second.
Anyways, I have a question for you guys because you guys are way more into. I reached the burnout point way before you guys did for any of this.
I just dragged you to him. It's fine.
Yeah. So, do you wish that Because I will admit, and I think if history looks back at it, it probably will never be able to be repeated. But that run from whatever, I guess it's technically the first Iron Man movie all the way till Endgame.
Yeah, the 10 years.
I think it's one of the most impressive things probably
Very
in
cool.
like film history that people will study for years is like that stretch, right? So
I would say so.
my question is, because that is just objectively good, like regardless of however you feel about the movies,
Sure,
whatever, you can't look at that run and be like, it's not impressive, right? Like they pulled off what nobody thought could possibly be done. Would you have rather it just ended at Endgame and they just said like, we did it, we did the thing, and then like maybe you still get films like Into the Spider-Verse, right, where it's like a separate thing, like, so you're still getting, but they're all self-contained little one-offs that aren't like, they're just here and there, whatever, there's no giant universe.
Sure.
Or would you rather the timeline we live in now where you are continuing whatever this new thing is that they've got going, and they don't have it seems like they have no clear sense of direction about what they're doing, and it's been mostly middling movies with a couple of standouts that I've heard you guys talk about.
I wish that they would kind of get in between of what you just said. So still give me those standalone movies that don't have to go with the overall, like, what is happening in the universe. Not every fucking new movie that Marvel comes out with needs to have some reference to Kang in it, because that's the new villain, right? Like, you could have had the new Ant-Man movie out, and it did not have to have Kang in it. You could have just your own spin-off Ironheart movie, and that could be a cool thing, and then she could show up later on in one of the movies, that's fine. But I just feel that right now, like, they just feel like they need to tie everything in. So you have to have them mention something. You have to have, like, at least, like, the end teaser kind of go into it. I think the only thing that didn't do that was Guardians of the Galaxy, which is why I like those movies as far as those Marvel movies, is because they are so detached from the rest of that Marvel universe, because they're so far away from everything that's happening on Earth, which is why I think I like those a little better. But I wish they kind of did less of the whole, everything's connected, we all have to mention and get ready for the next big event, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just take a breather. You guys fucking did it. You got the 10 years out. Do a couple fun, like, small, like, movies. Like, okay, we don't have Iron Man anymore, so let's do an Ironheart movie and explain, like, how she's going to be a part of this universe, maybe. But, like, she doesn't need to be a part of the second Black Panther movie.
Yeah, I'm torn. If I think about it, I kind of wish they would have stopped after because, like, we had great standalone movies before that, right? Like, the Nolan Batman movies were really, really good. Charlie Cox Daredevil standalone on Netflix was really, really good.
X-Men, Blade.
But a couple of the Blades were really, really good. And some others. So,
I'm not gonna fight you.
Even
with
though
three,
I have this, even though I have this weird soft spot for 3 and really do enjoy it, it is not a good movie by any means.
Not even a good movie by Blade standards. Yeah.
No. So, like, we had good content. So I agree with you, Christian. Like, that was such a feat, and toward the end of it is when DC was starting to do it and failing. Just they couldn't get it up and going. I wish that would have been a sign to them that was like, we captured lightning in a bottle.
Let's stop.
And then you end it, and then, like, we can still have the Loki show is good. The Loki show can stand on its own. Right?
That's what I mean, right? It's like that's
the Hawkeye
kind of...
or the Hawk Girl.
Hawkeye.
That, like, the Hawkeye, right, was pretty good. It could have stood on its own sort of thing, and maybe one day you come back to it and say, like, we dropped little nuggets if things made sense and did it more organically. But because they try and duplicate a Phase 4 or a Phase 5, everything is so shoehorned that you run into issues like the Kang thing, which, like, we now have legal issues with Jonathan Majors, but also, like, a lot of it just doesn't work. Right, it doesn't. You bring yourself into holes. It's not good.
I think it's also just burnout in general. I think you look at
fatigue for sure. Yeah,
like sure. You look at it and, like, with Endgame, it felt like, anyway. Again, this is just the outside looking in. It felt like there was a very clear point that they had said, this is where we're trying to get, and this is what you are going to get leading up to that. These are all the stories that we feel like we need to tell to be able to lead up to this, final set of movies that will lead us into this, finality of this arc, right? So everybody has that sort of mention or thinking in their head when they go to see these movies, like, okay, so this is what's left, and what do we do, right? There was so much theory crafting around. I mean, whole podcasts and shows and channels were all built around this whole thing, right? So you have all that, and I know why. It's because people in the suits at these companies are just out of touch with reality. But like, you could have just ended on top, and then to your point, Alex, you just go back to for a little while anyway, and by a little while I mean maybe another 10 years, right? But maybe you just do smaller.
I mean, that's not that long if you think about it. We're probably almost 5 years removed from those movies already, right? Like, maybe it's not long at all in movie standards.
You either go back to like smaller self-contained trilogies, or maybe you just do a couple 2 movies, and then sometimes you can even just do a self-contained movie, right? Like, it can just be by itself, and that's great. And I think if you do that, it allows people just to have a moment, and you tell people straight up, hey, going forward, we're not saying never. We might do that again, but for right now, we're just letting people sort of tell the fun stories that they want to tell and sort of get that kind of stuff out. You don't have to worry about this being connected. And who knows? Maybe you make a little bit of less money than you did when you were doing the Endgame series, right? But to your point, Alex, recognize that you captured lightning in a bottle, and it's okay that you don't do that again. And like, you made so much money in doing this, and you've garnered so much goodwill that you can sort of be like, to tie it back to gaming, you can be like Nintendo and sit on your war chest forever, and you can just sort of sit here and fund these little smaller products and do these things. And then, a huge, whatever chunk of years goes, now people are starting to be like, man, there's a whole, you've given enough time, there's a whole new set of people that are ready to come sort of watch and have their own thing that they didn't get to experience Endgame when it was coming out, right? So they want their own sort of experience like that. And you set it up, and you can start slowly building to whatever a new arc might be, right?
And you could do it the right way. So like, if you waited and told individual stories, you start off doing a couple X-Men movies, and the X-Men have their own like mini bad, right? Their mini boss at the end of a couple of movies, and then maybe one day you work back into a greater team movie. But they started from minute 1 trying to shoehorn in a big bad for the next phase, and that's just, it's a problem, and it's led to the fatigue because it set. This will actually go into our topic tonight, so I'm not going to talk too much about it right now about things being derivative, but like. You said you have to now from this point on watch everything, every Disney Plus show, every one-off, every movie, and like, that's fine if they're not bad, but when they're all middling to less than middling,
you have to get through
that's
it.
How you get. That's how you get fatigued, because now all of a sudden it's like a slog, and I have to push myself through it.
Yeah,
and like, I get the one decent show here and there, but like, for the most part, they all just kind of suck.
When
and
the
I
new
know
Captain
I have
America
to buy in
movie
for
comes
like
out,
6
you gotta
episodes.
go watch that Captain America show on Disney Plus, and it's like, I didn't mind it, but most people, it's not a great show.
I haven't watched Echo. I haven't started
Echo's
a
actually
single
pretty good.
episode
Echo's actually
of
pretty
Echo. Maybe it might be right, but like, it's just, that's the thing, and it took us a while to do Loki season 2. Even though Loki is pretty good, like, we started and had to come back to it. And it's because you set this precedent that like, I have to watch everything, and it's all not great. So it's too much. So yeah, I wish they would have stopped and taken a break and made their own independent projects. And we still like. I wish other people would realize like, not everything needs to be their own thing. Like Joker 1. Like the not Matt Reeves, that was Matt Reeves' Batman. The standalone Joker with Joaquin Phoenix was unique, right? That was pretty cool because it was like different, and I loved it because like, in my opinion, Heath Ledger's Joker is like my definitive Joker of how great he was, and this didn't step on that and didn't try to be that. It was like completely its own thing. It was really good, but like, is it going to be the same with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn? Like. I actually think Lady Gaga is a good actress.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
But,
there's a sequel.
Yeah, but like, it's being made right now. But like, that's the thing. A, did we need it? We didn't. And B, like, she may be good, but now I'm worried about like, how much Harley Quinn's too much Harley Quinn. Like, Harley Quinn's everywhere, right? And it's just, people need to learn like, sometimes you can do a good thing, and it can just be a good thing on its own. You don't need a bunch of like this. You don't need to make sequels
and
or
then
turn
also,
it into something.
Yeah, and when you make the good thing, it's okay to just let it be a good thing and just
that's what I mean.
You did it. It's okay. Like, you can just let it be done now. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, but that's my feeling on all of that stuff. Like, I hate when stuff gets dug into the ground and we just don't need anymore.
It was a money grab at some point.
Like, I hate to say this because I know you have a soft spot in your heart for these things, but like, the world is going to be okay if we don't see another Assassin's Creed game. We'll be good. We don't need another one.
And at this point, you may not. You may not.
It's fine. That's okay.
They keep laying off more. They keep laying off more people. You may never see another one.
And that's fine. That's okay.
Just a side note, the thing that pisses me off about Assassin's Creed. So like, they have all these projects coming up, and they just announced one called Assassin's Creed Hex, Hexe, and
what
the
is that?
A. So the A symbol is like very Hellblade-y, witchy, like occult
like
sort of stuff.
Trials.
Like,
well, I don't
Creed
know.
Transylvania?
They haven't said like it's going to be Salem, but like it is very witchy, and it pisses me off because like if they go, hey, we're actually going to move a little bit away from like the historical piece and go more to the fantasy, like we've already started doing, but go even more this time. I look at that and go, that's kind of cool. I'm kind of into that, and I hate that
that cool stuff in it. You didn't have to be Assassin's Creed slapped on it.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, at least with
that story
all
doesn't make sense anymore.
No, but it's not. I'm not talking about the overarching story, right? I'm talking about the premise of Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is usually always set in locations in which there was a conflict of some kind that makes sense. That there is the shadow sort of thing of Templars versus Assassins, right? Like that's the first game started that, and it went from there, right? And it made sense. Even with something as simple as Vikings, you're like, well, Vikings were always going around doing the raping and the pillaging that they like to do.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you could put something in a situation where they're like, okay, it's they were a warfaring fucking group of people, so we'll put Assassin's Creed here. If nothing about Salem, Massachusetts, except basically uneducated people doing horrible things to other people in their community, You don't have to do Salem. You could go back to like do the Woads and like back to in England at a different time. Like I'm not saying it's right. Now that would be
I'm not saying it's right or it's good. All I'm saying is I saw that and I was like, that's kind of cool. Because I have a problem.
I have a problem. Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, you do have a sickness. That is true.
I do.
Yeah. I even played the last one and go, hey, the game was good, the story sucked. Like they ruined it with the last 10 minutes, right? I understand. They will ruin it again, but the logo they created for Hex looks kind of cool.
We'll see.
Well,
we'll see.
Will we? He will.
He will.
You and I will remain pure. I believe in that. Yeah.
Let's go back to Egypt and find.
You were made pure.
I'm not playing that shit. But
ridiculous.
Was that it for Comic Corner, Preston?
Yeah. Sure was.
40,
if it wasn't,
40
it is now.
minutes.
God. We just need a nickname. This we just need to call it the Ramblecast, and that's it.
It's kind of what podcasts do.
But
was that it for Comic Corner?
Well, I just want to make sure. I didn't want to. But
sure,
so I'll kick off. We'll kick off the weeks, and I'll try to make it quick. So I hit you guys up because I finished after I had finished. What was it?
Yakuza?
No, it was Rogue Trader.
Oh, that's right.
I finished Rogue Trader. Did I talk about that on here? Yes, I did. I know I did.
Did you finish it on here? Did we talk about that on here?
Yeah, because I remember I said that had it been better, like, or had it had more budget behind it, it would have done better than Baldur's Gate 3 just by virtue of its story writing. And then I talked about how I played Tekken 8 story, went through that, and then played online. Yeah, so after all that was done, I knew that Ed was coming out in Street Fighter, but I had the couple gap of days, and I messaged you guys, and I was like, thinking about what I'm going to be able to do here, what games, blah, 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 and the game that I ended up having you like help me decide on was I played No More Heroes 2.
Yeah.
And that lasted me all of 2 days because that game is 8 hours long. So,
but you can knock it off your backlist or your backlog. You can
I
check
sure
it off.
did. I sure did.
Yep.
So, No More Heroes 2 was very interesting. It is a better game than 1 for sure. but it is also a much smaller and like less features game. Like it's a much smaller scoped game than 1, and I can only assume it's because 1 did not sell what Nintendo probably wanted it to.
Sure.
But they signed on to get 3 games from Suda51, so they were like, well,
knock another one out.
We're here, so you got to make them. So just, I guess, do it, but you're not getting as much money this time, whatever. However they ended up doing it. So if you guys remember way back when I was talking about No More Heroes 1, how there was a giant open world, and Travis has that crazy motorcycle that he rides around, and there's all these things, and you're doing these assassins. So this game opens up, and it gets right into it with the fourth wall breaking shit and all the other stuff where, like, you're on this rooftop, and there's this dude that has a Tommy gun revolver. Like, it's a revolver that has a Tommy gun chain of different revolver chambers that are all attached to it, and as he shoots, it just sort of goes through him. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's dumb and fun, and I can get behind that, right? So it opens, and he's just standing there, and he's pointing it at an elevator, and the elevator goes like, ding, here, and he just fucking, just lights it up, right? And he's like smiling or whatever, and then the door opens, and there's nobody there, and then Travis is standing behind him, and he's got the beam, katana or whatever, and he's like, dickhead, the hotel's gonna have to bill you for that or something like that, right? And the guy's like, oh, fuck you, Travis, I hate you, and they're going back and forth, and yada, yada. So he ends up killing him, and he, does the Travis thing where he cuts his head off, and it, very anime, does the whole thing, right? And his head sort of, does, a little cartwheel in the air and, sort of lands back on top of his neck, and he just sort of stands there for a second. And you're just like, okay, he's dead, right? So that's what happens. So then the lady who was, your handler in the first game, she comes up, and you guys start going back and forth, and he's like, hey, you are not just going to start talking to me about things I need to do when you're not even going to mention what happened the last, 5 years, right? Blah, blah, blah. And then she makes some kind of the player doesn't care. You got up to nothing. It doesn't matter. It would be so boring. No one gives a shit. And he's looks at the camera, and he's like, well, it's fair. I was doing fuck all, basically. And, and then the guy starts talking again, he holds his head. It was so weird. Either way, it's very anime and stupid, just like No More Heroes always is. It was on the nose with everything that it does. So you start that, and I was like, and it says right after that, it's like, you are now ranked number 50, and you have to get back to number 1, essentially, to do the main objective of the game. And you're like, I was like, God damn, dude. I was like, this game is going to take forever. I only had to kill 10 people or 12 people last time, whatever it was. 50 is fucking nuts. And then it starts to become very apparent where you're like, so I assumed, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go into the open world, do this whole thing. And then you're at the hotel that you stay at, the No More Heroes Motel or whatever. And Travis walks out the door, and he's like, all right, let's fucking get this shit started. And he goes out, and then I'm met with a menu. And the menu is weapon shop, gear, side mission, and then the assassin number 49, basically, right? And I was like, what? And so I'm cycling through it. I was like, surely this is not going to just be selecting where I'm going, right? And that's exactly what it was. And so you select. Now I have it on good. The third game is much different than this, and it has a way bigger budget, and it came out on modern consoles and everything. But this is still very much a Wii game that got ported, right? So I was like, okay, that seems interesting. And what ends up happening is it's so weird. It's a game that's way scoped out. They absolutely took features that you used to have and removed them from a game. But what happens is the stuff that's left is perfect. It is non-stop. It's polished to a T. There's no fat on it. You are just doing all the mini games are fun that you get. So the side missions, the side jobs that you do. There's no grindy, stupid travel stuff that gets in your way. There's no being obtuse for 2 seconds. Oh, this person's halfway across the city, so I have to drive, and then jump and do these dodges or go through this empty city, whatever, right? Like I don't have to do any of that, especially when you think about this in the context of the Wii, right? And so you're like, I'm just getting right into it. And then what happens is that then the combat is like way more expanded and feels better to play, and like you have different moves, and then now you have this extra, you had it in the first game, but there's this roulette system that sort of happens as you kill people that either makes it so that you like time will slow down, you attack super fast, you do double damage, or if you get lucky sevens across the thing, you turn into a tiger and then you just like one hit kill everybody, which is like wild. And so you have all these moments or all these things, but all of it feels way better to play. And so you're like, I found myself, it was so weird where I'm just like, I'm having a better time with this game than the first one. Like the first one was like, this was fun, but it's a flawed game. Whereas like, I'm like, this one's way better, but it's weird because there are things that you took away, right? Like there's no more open world. There's no more extra like finding random side missions or anything like that. Like you're just given and they took away all of the really boring side mission stuff that's like grindy, that you're like, it's basically just waves of enemies that come at you and you have to do it in a certain time frame or whatever. Like you either have really, and the mini games are not even in engine, like, or in the full 3D world. They go into 2D like sprite based things, and that's it. Like it's just mini games that you can run like that. And it was just, I would love to know the background behind the development of this trilogy, essentially, of like the peak and then valley that ends up happening, where like they had on the Wii they had like a full, but like it was an open world that had stuff to go do in it and whatever, even as flawed as I found it, to then go down to, they're like, all right, trim everything, just ship the story and we'll just be done with it and move on, to then end up being able to kick back up to the third game that came out on Xbox and PlayStation and everything, right? And has like a weight, and PC, and has a lot more going for it. And it was very weird. It's strange, but I thought it was neat. But either way, so I finished that, and it's just as goofy and stupid as the other one. It is no more Heroes to a T. Travis Touchdown is still exactly how he was. And then after that, as far as like lives, Preston and I definitely played more Helldivers.
Yeah, we did with Alex
for sure.
I played a little bit.
We played with Alex.
Which, by the way, I didn't realize, because I never played Helldivers 1 with you all, that like that was like an isometric sort of top-down thing. Yeah. Like somebody said the glow-up is real, and they're not kidding. Like the look of that to what this is like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's cool. Yep, I'm very happy with that. How that game turned out. It's great. And it's even better that Sony, I assume Sony just felt like this game was going to flop or do nothing, because it's clear that Sony did not get its grubby little paws all over this game where there was like aggressive monetization in it or whatever. It's totally not like that at all.
And it's only $40.
Yeah, and so you best believe that they are mad at themselves right now because they wish there'd be a way that they could nickel and dime people out of this game, but it's cool. So yeah, played more of that. But then next thing was my boy Ed came out in Street Fighter. So my classic main in the Street Fighter series. So I was playing him, and he's great. Everything about him is fantastic. He's much improved from set. It's so funny how much this character is basically, and one, he has the fighting style that I like, which is, like, I love boxing type characters. That's just in every fighting game. That's just who I gravitate towards. But more specifically, and they started this in 5 where they gave him Nero's costume, or like they gave him an alternate costume, but it was Nero from Devil May Cry 4, and he had like the whole, the Yamato arm and everything, and like if you activated his super, you would see, like the Virgil's devil trigger behind him kind of thing, because that's what was stored in the arm and everything like that. So that was my favorite costume. I was like, I bought that costume, I just never took it off. And so now they've got this thing where Ed, during his super, if he when he hits you with it, the last thing he says is jackpot, which for those who know is a staple of Devil May Cry, where him and Virgil and Dante say it. Either way, So it's just more leaning onto that, but he sounds like he has the mannerisms of like Nero and all these, like it's just a perfect melding of that thing that I like. But he his gameplay is sick. He's so fun. And honestly the worst thing I can say about my time with playing Street Fighter and Ed is that not only do I find him incredible and I'm happy with how he turned out, but apparently that entire fucking community is also excited about Ed and how he turned out, because I keep playing fucking mirror matches of Ed online and I get so irritated because I'm like, I don't want to fight against Ed. I want to learn matchups against other people. I'm tired of fighting other people who also want to play Ed. You go play somebody else.
That should be an option as far as the search queue is like, hey, no mirror matches. And you wait a half an hour to find out that
it might be. Yeah, it might be. I don't know if it isn't, but I just
good idea.
Yeah, I'm mostly just being funny about like
sure.
That's
what usually happens though with the new characters. New character comes out. Yeah. If you go into the system, it'll be a lot of those people.
It'll be the same. When Akuma comes out, I'll be fighting nothing but Akumas, and that's just going to be the case. But yeah, that's how it always goes. Yeah, so that happened, and then the last thing I played this week, and I got a couple hours in, so I can sort of talk about it a little bit. I started playing a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
There you go.
Yeah. So
I hear good things, like really good things.
I do too. On the podcast, listen to it. I'm pretty highly of it.
Yeah. So
all right.
It is. Don't read too far into that, but it's so. I got the physical edition of it because I wanted the only 2-disc PlayStation 5 game to ever. It probably will exist until the next version of this game comes out, but it works. It doesn't work exactly how I would want it, but it works in a fun way where you put the game in and it starts installing. It gets about 50 gigs of the way through, and then it says, "Please insert disc 2 to keep installing," and you're like,
So it doesn't. Cool. So it doesn't let you play the game and then swap discs, which is
not
what
playing
would be
half
really
the game
fun.
and then putting the disc.
Yeah,
that would be fun. Yeah.
Now the reason that the reason they can't and won't do that is because games no longer run off of the disc, right? They will always install off the disc, and then you just use that going forward, right? So even now, obviously, there's games like Call of Duty and other ones that just don't have anything on that disc, and then it's all a download, right? But most games have version 1.0 of the game on the disc, and then it just installs from the disc, and then after that, it's installed just to help with load times and everything else like that, right? So obviously for that reason, they can't do that here, but it was still kind of cool to be sitting there and you see a little pop up and it's like, insert disc 2, and you're like, ooh, this is
I
good.
made the little sound and everything for you.
Yeah, this is the good brain juice that I wanted, right? Because it reminds you of like when you go to, like Preston, when you're installing old Blizzard games, right? Sometimes those motherfuckers would come with 6 discs and you're like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and you would just go and get the install going that way. So it kind of reminded me of that, which was cool. So I won't go into spoilers at all with this game because obviously it's brand new, and I know Alex, you want to get to it, and so I don't want to say anything. I will say that I have it on good authority that my prediction did not come true, but I'm closer to right than I am wrong, so I'll just leave it there. But here's my thing with Rebirth so far. I think that it's sort of a blessing and a curse that they are breaking this up by multiple projects, right? Because on the one hand, you get to sort of change things that might not have been working that people, might want you to fix or whatever that they don't have to now deal with for the entire game. On the other hand, it leads you to change things that maybe you didn't need to change and that you could have kept the same and people would have preferred it, and it ends up being worse this time around when you want to go back and check it out. So like an example that's purely gameplay is, Alex, you remember Cloud had 2 attack modes in Remake, right? He had his operator mode, which is just your normal fighting one, and then you had Punisher stance, which was slower, but you did more damage and it looked cooler, and then you had a counter stance where if you blocked during that, he would get an automatic counter attack, right?
Yeah.
In this, it's sort of the same, except now his Punisher stance is literally just one attack. It's just him slashing from side to side, and that's it. And I literally mean just going like this. Like, that's all he does. And he'll just do that, and it just goes, and you're basically just meant to press that button until the stagger bar goes away, and then you're like, okay, now I'll go back to the mode that lets me fill the stagger bar, and it sort of rinses. But it's just not as cool as the other one, and it's not as fun to use. And so you end up having this moment where
I feel like you could have just fixed that by having, like, if all you wanted was me to switch up my stance for that one move, just map it to a different button. Give me a different attack that just does that.
Yeah,
for
or just
moment.
Like in my experience, or in my opinion, is like just leave it, right? Like there's no reason that, and it doesn't even make any sense from a standpoint of if somebody's going through it, and when the final game eventually comes out, if somebody's going through and playing these games, you end up having this moment where you're like, why did Cloud all of a sudden stop doing the thing that I just knew he was doing for the last 40 hours of the game that I played before? There was no time skip. It picked up immediately. So why did he just stop doing that, right? Now, obviously, we know that there's 4 years in between, there's a different game, but like for somebody, when you're thinking of continuity, it's like, it doesn't make any sense that you change that. I think, and it makes sense when they change things like, for instance, they switched up how you upgrade character skills and how you upgrade weapon skills, right? Like it's two separate things now, and there's all these different things. And I kind of actually welcome that, because it kind of works out and it lets you sort of experiment more and sort of build out in different ways, right? That's cool. That's just a menu change, though. Like it's just like a purely mechanical change, and so you're like, that doesn't. You can make that distinction in your head, no problem. But with a combat animation, especially one that's like how the combat flows with that character, you're like, there's no reason to change that. You didn't need to do it. It was fine. Why break it? Like, don't, whatever. So there's things like that. And it also leads to, obviously, quick spoilers for Remake. If Preston, if you just want to bleep this name, you can. But obviously there was the Zack timeline that happens in the other. So Zack is obviously a character that you can play in this one. And it lends to this problem of when you play Zack, his combat is way fucking cooler.
It's better.
And you're like, because he has this mode where as he's fighting normally, and then if somebody gets, he can switch to, like, he basically builds up, like, combos where he starts punching the shit and kicking, like, air kicking and doing all the stuff that, like, a soldier would do, right? And so, like, he does all this really crazy anime shit, and you're like, I just want to play as you. Why am I, like, it's way more fun to play. And then you have these moments where, and the game kind of knows, and so, like, you have this moment where when you're doing with Cloud's party, and you're like, they let you switch and switch to whoever you want to be the combat leader. So no longer, in Remake, right, like, if you rolled up as Cloud and you wanted to play as, like, Barrett, for instance, you would switch to Barrett right after the combat kicked off, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Going forward now, you'll still run around as Cloud, but you can set the combat leader to be Barrett, so that right when combat starts, it'll just toss you over there, right? And so it's like, well, if you know already that I'm going to prefer to play with other people, then just, why did you break it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You also have this weird thing where the story, so far anyway, seems, it is like, one, and this sentiment has been echoed by other people, but it's one that I personally feel, it really makes me appreciate Final Fantasy 16 more now, like going back and playing it.
Really?
And to be fair, this was absolute, like, 16 is absolute, it made my game of the year. It was one of my favorite games that came out. Like, it's incredible. So this is not like, but like, it makes me appreciate it even more, and it makes me more excited for the DLC, the Leviathan DLC, and then I know Echoes of the Fallen is already out, but I am saving it for when the Leviathan one comes out. I'm, like, so excited to go back and revisit that one, because there's so many times in this game where it's like, the peaks and valleys of some of the writing is like, it feels like it was written by two different people sometimes, where I don't even know how they get there. Like, and this is part of OG Final Fantasy VII, so this is not a spoiler at all. But in when you're in Calm in this game and you have the conversation that you have with Tifa, where Tifa looks at you and is like, what the fuck happened to you for the last 5 years? Like, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, and Cloud goes like, well, what happened to you? Like, last time I saw you, like, you had like a hole in your chest, basically. And Tifa immediately kicks in, and her voice, like, it's the VA and everything is what she goes, well, what, you just assuming that I'm an imposter and that I wasn't alive? It's like, and you're like, and you have this moment where you're like, he didn't say that. He just asked what happened. Like, now, obviously, in the original game, there's more insinuation. There's things leading up that Cloud is like, are you really you? Like he says, right? Like, so, and I know that they don't want to, quote the exact script, like, line for line, but in one of those moments where it's like, you should probably have him say it. Like, just say, like, don't try to rewrite. Instead of him just being like, well, what happened to you? And she's like, well, what the fuck do you mean what happened to me? And she was like rolling down this list of things and all this other stuff. And you're like, you're in this moment where the game, what it expects you to already know. And so you're like, so at first I had this moment, I was like, I know what Cloud was supposed to ask her in that moment, but because in the game, all he asked her was, well, what happened to you? You're like, and then she starts rolling off all this shit. You're like, yo, why are you screaming at him? Like, but then he doesn't fight it at all because the game knows that is technically what he's insinuating. He just doesn't say it. And so Cloud just was like, well, yeah, you caught me. And like, just doesn't fight it. And is like, yeah, that's what I thought, but whatever. And you're just, and it's this weird moments where you're like, what? I don't like what conversation happened here that, did you guys blink like Morse code at each other and I just didn't see it, like, and that's what happened? Like, it's so weird. And so like there's moments like that, but then there's also like there's some scenes like the opening that I will not spoil, but the opening is like so jarring and did not make me feel good. Like I felt bad watching, not bad as in like this is bad, but bad as in like, you are putting bad emotions on the screen. Like, I don't feel good about what I've seen, and this makes me very scared for what this means. Oh boy, like you know what I mean? Like that, I'll remember how everybody felt when there was that scene at the end of I don't remember what season it was in Game of Thrones, but when everybody thought Jon Snow was gonna die, like with the when he's like gasping for air and trying to climb out through all those bodies or whatever. What'd you say?
Preston, you're on mute, but I assume he said Battle of the Bastards.
I was saying pile of bodies, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And everybody, I remember Preston did it. I did it. Everybody, when we were all watching it, when we talked about it to you later, Alex, you said the same thing. Everybody was like, I will riot if they do something. That's the kind of level I'm talking about. Like, there's things that happen at the very, because they, which is fine. I don't mind when games do this, but they lied where they were like, the game opens with the Nibelheim demo, so you can just skip right past it, and we'll let you skip past it, and blah blah blah. The game does not open with the Nibelheim demo. It does not. And so when it opens and things are happening, and then like things are shown, I'm like, whoa, what? Like they just go right past like so fast, and you just have to be forced to deal with it. But those images are still in my head, and I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like, what are you doing? And so it's these moments where you're like, you see that, and then they make the Nibelheim demo happen, or that part of the demo, and then Calm kicks off, and you go for the rest of the game. And you have this moment where I'm like, I gotta go back to what I saw. Go back to that. Like, go back to what you're doing. I don't give a shit about this weird non-argument that just happened. Please get that out of my face. Like, I want to go do this. Or like, you have this moment where after Calm, the open world parts of the game start. And Alex, I'm just going to spoil this for you now, or not spoil it for you, but I'm going to warn you now. You are going to have the thing in your brain that happened to mine, where when the game starts to go like, hey, here's the quote unquote open world, like, go. Don't, because you will spend your time hoofing it and walking around to places that aren't activated, that don't have anything to actually show you yet, because it's assuming that you went and did other objectives, and then one of those being getting a chocobo to ride around, and then all of those things will activate. And so, like, I walked around all these, like, they're very clearly points of interest that you get into, or that you can get into.
And you walked them, yeah? Like, you just walked, like, physically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I see a barren map, well, I gotta...
Unlock it. You gotta do it.
But before I go to the thing that you pointed out that says I have to go to, I'm gonna go everywhere else because I have to.
Yep.
And it got very clear, very apparently about halfway through, where I was like, there's no way that there's like 4 buildings that I've walked to that clearly like have names on the map that just nothing's at and I can't do anything with. There's just no way. And then it's because it's like, oh, right, it's because they come into play later and I wasted my own time. But that's about where I'm at now. So you have these moments, right, where like you're doing all this weird stuff, and you see like there's side characters that were never there before. You know, all the things that they add to the whole remake thing. But they're like weirdly written, and it's like how in a lot of the side stuff in remake was just okay. Like it was like the Chadley stuff where you're just like, I don't care about you, little Shinra child. And you're studying materia. I just don't care.
You didn't like fighting things in his little materia world?
But no, and nobody did. But that's my point. Is like he's like, I got another thing for you, and you're just like, oh, just leave me alone. And it's similar to that, where there's like little things happening, and all I can keep thinking about, and this I assume most people feel, you're like, I gotta get back to what I was doing. Like, please stop putting this. I need to do the thing that you just showed me, right? So it's these weird moments where I just really appreciate, or I ended up appreciating more how 16's story felt like when I was going to go get after those big moments, there was nothing that was stopping me from going after those big moments, right? Like the side stuff is the side stuff in that game, and you can always go back and do whatever, right? But like, after, like the part with like for instance, when Titan kicks off, nothing's stopping you from just just going, right? Like you can just go straight for and be like, I'll pick up the side quest later. I don't care. I've got to go figure this out, right? Whereas this doesn't have that, and like I said, the writing is just kind of all over the place now. So we'll see. I'm still like I said, there's moments where I'm still sort of surprised and whatever, but yeah, it's just been. It's been a little all over the place. I will say, it was in the demo, but there's still parts that are funny where, like during the Nibelheim section where he's, Cloud's telling the story, like his version of the flashback, right? Like, or, Zack's memories, but his, and he's, trying to implant himself. And so he's going through the events of what he remembers what happened in Crisis Core, but it was him as the soldier, right? And so all these things. And there's this moment where the entire time Tifa's talking to him, she's like, I'm gonna let you keep talking, but like you can see it in her face that's like, that's not how I remember things. Like, I don't remember this at all, that kind of stuff. And in one of the situations, he's like, it shows Tifa's house because they live next door to each other, and the door is interactable. And so you can go into it, and then Tifa's voice actor is obviously like in the room they're staying at, or while he's telling the story, and she's like, "You went into my house?" And he's like, "Yeah, I thought you might be home." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And so then he like goes through, and then you can go up to her room and do the same, and open the door. She's like, "You went into my room?" And he's like, "I thought you might be in there." And she's like, "Okay, I guess." And then there's a piano in there, you can play it. And she's like, "Did you really play the piano in my room?" And then you have options of like, "No, I didn't do it," or like, "Yeah, I went to town on that thing." So you can play that, and then it brings up, like, you remember in The Last of Us Part 2 where you could do like the whole guitar thing, or I guess Alex, or you didn't play it, but Preston, you played it. You can do the whole guitar thing. It's similar to that. Both analog sticks control different like keys on the stand, whatever. So you can do all this piano games. You do it, and then depending on how like well you play something, even though you don't have any sheet music to play the rhythm game yet at this point, so you just are like free forming it. They'll either like, so he'll give Cloud is apparently he's giving a rendition to everybody hearing the story. Now the player just hears the piano, but he must be like humming it or like telling people what he played. And so you can either get responses where the whole party, like Barrett, Aerith, Red, everybody, and Tifa go like, you know, you didn't have to do that. Like, no one asked you to play it. Like, you could have just shut the lid and kept going. Or, like, if you do well enough, there'll be, or, like, if you play something of some, you know, substance or whatever, they'll be like, oh my god, dude, I had no idea that you could actually, dude, you have to play for us. Like, let's go get a piano, like, right now. This is crazy. Or you can do what I did, which is just break it, and you can find out that apparently what the actual trigger is as long as you cycle through all the different keys and all the different, like, and when I say keys, I mean both terms, like actual keys of a song, like, you know, of sound, as well as like the keys. And so there's like multiple different things that you can like shift and go through. As long as you do all of them, and so it just sounds like I'm going ding, 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 and like going through all these different ones. That's good enough, and everyone just is like multiple classes, like, oh my god, Cloud, I had no idea you were such a savant, and you're like, this was a child slamming his hands on the keys, but that's fine. And the final part is you can go up to, there's clearly like a locked, like what is like a wardrobe, and before you even get to touch it, she screams at you, and she's like, please tell me you're joking, that you did not go through my clothes. And the options are, no, I'm just joking, or I did, ... like just a bunch of ellipses. And so I went and said, and like the idea is like, everybody's like, not cool. And Barrett's like, dude, that is uncool. Like, why, and why would you say it? And then the other one's like, you're like, no, I'm just joking. Oh, and then the end of it is Tifa and Aerith both calling you an asshole. Whereas then if you say, no, I'm just joking, Tifa's like, is that what's funny to you? Like, does that pass for funny to you? And Aerith's like, yeah, this is weird. Like, can we get on with the story kind of thing? But that's what I mean, right? Is it's moments. There's moments where it's good, you're like, yes, and there's other times where you're like, man, this is the most bottom of the barrel. Like, I saw one person say that there's times where this game feels like it was written by AI. I personally don't feel like that, but I could see how somebody could, and I haven't played all of it, so they could be farther than me, but I could see how somebody could make.
So it's like Strangers of Paradise quality writing in some part.
No, personally, again, I would never say that. I know there's some people who said that. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic. There will be nothing that will ever come close to Stranger of Paradise, just so we're very clear. That's just not even close.
You can't recreate a masterpiece.
It's true. That's fair enough.
I saw somebody, I forget who it was. It wasn't an IGN, because I would have laughed at that, but it was somebody, PC Mag or somebody, rated the game like a 10 out of 10, which I thought was surprising.
Oh yeah, I mean, who knows?
It's quite high praise.
There was people who rated Remake a 10 out of 10. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, there's people on this planet who, in the same way that Final Fantasy X affected you, the same way that Final Fantasy IX affected me, the same way that Final Fantasy XII is going to affect Preston, there is something to be said about the game that hits.
12 will affect Preston completely different than 10 and 9 affected us. I'm just going to say
No, I don't think so. I think that, yes, there's one character. There's one character that he's in, but in general, it is Star Wars the Final Fantasy, and I know he's going to like, there's just, it's going to hit him the same way. I know he's going to love. But my point is that there's things that hit right, and so there's people that, like the cast of 7 affected them in a very meaningful way that they just have never been able to let go, right? And a story that I can tell, since it's part of it is, and you know, Preston, if you want to take over from here, but the last thing is we saw Advent Children together. Yep. We went out and saw it, and the movie opens up with a little interview with Hamaguchi, the director, Nomura, and then Katase. And God, dude, the person in front of us, he's there with, I'm assuming, his girlfriend, his wife, whatever, his partner. And Nomura comes on the screen, and the guy, and Preston Batman, no shit, he does the whole fucking, like, bow down, like, puts his hands up, and I'm like, you are in public. Stop what you're doing.
Also, in a Final Fantasy movie, it was gonna happen. It was probably happening behind us, we just didn't notice.
Yeah, I mean, probably. My point is just like, but to that end, there is clearly people that this, you know, I get it. Like, there's people like when I saw people, there was reactions of people when the title screen of Rebirth starts before the crazy ass opening happens. When the title screen of Rebirth starts, there's people who just start crying. Uncontrollably, they start crying. Like, it just gets them. I'm not one of those people. Final Fantasy VII, I think it's a very important game. It's probably one of the most important games that ever came out, but it's not my favorite by any stretch. But that being said, if the 9 remake comes out and they actually do it well, I could totally see myself being like as crazy as these people. 10 out of 10, perfect. There's nothing. I never will be better, right? Like, so who knows? But yeah. Either way, the whole thing with that 16 thing is just when a lot of people say like, you know, I've seen people be like, you know, this game actively makes 16 better. It's like, I don't want to go that far. Like, I think it's weird when you try to put it has to be an either or thing. But I will say that it does make me like happier about that game kind of thing. But it's not an either or situation. It's just like, man, it's really cool that we got a game that sort of shirked a lot of the typical problems that can happen with most modern Final Fantasy games. And just was like, you know what? We're just going for it. Like, we're just going to tell a fucking story that's just, boom, end to end. That's it. So, but yeah. It was a lot. And then that was it. So, whoever, I know I left it open for Preston, but whoever wants to go after that is fine.
Yeah, go ahead. All right. So, like I said, you went to go see Advent Children. CG totally holds up. Fight scenes hold up. Story is just as good as you remember it. So we'll leave it at that. But it was a nice little fun event. You got to go and watch it. It was a great time. It was a fun time.
The fight scenes still go hard.
Yeah, the fight scenes are still fucking phenomenal. And then, like he also mentioned, played some more Tekken 8. We got a little group going on the Discord, and one of the guys, I don't recognize him, but he was a newer guy to our Discord, and he's like, "Hey, I got a handful of friends that we play, here and there." I'm like, "Fucking, let's do it." So we did get a handful of people one night, just kind of hang out and play that. We played that. Grand Blue Fantasy
versus Rising.
Yes, that's what it's called.
It is quite a name.
Yep. Yes, we played a minute of that. I did not like it that much. It's like a gacha fighter, and I don't know. I don't understand the controls. He said it's like Smash, but it's not like Smash. And I'm sitting there trying to do combos. I'm not doing combos. I was doing better when I was mashing buttons than I was when I was trying to actually do
so that was my fault. I thought it was like Smash because the character that I was playing. Did he? I don't think so.
He's like, "Oh, you like Smash. You press the button to go over. You press the button to go up, or you just press the button neutral. It's kind of like Smash." And then then he also went on to say more about how you play the game. But the volume wasn't loud enough for me to hear him over me trying to play the game and clicking buttons all the time. So I didn't get the full tutorial.
It's one of it's I mean, it's an Arxis fighter that's not Strive, so it's a little bit. It's just like every character plays a little bit different. As I played through some of the we tried each ones. I had more fun with some of the other characters, but. Yeah, I mean, like, if it comes on a steep sale, I might, be able, just so I can try some other,
put down for $10, I might put it in my library just in case they want to play
it. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
It's fun. It's fun. Nice having a couple more people to play some fighting games with.
Yeah, it was cool just to go through and check that out, though.
And then we played some Helldivers 2. I'll let Alex kind of take over on that one once we get to there. But yeah, the game's still a lot of fun. Servers are having a lot better time because they started giving them the AFK kick. Which wasn't a thing right at the beginning because they didn't think it was going to be so big. And then there was people who were literally putting their PlayStation to sleep and it would still have them logged in the entire time without them even knowing. So that was a problem. So they finally got that going. I haven't had an issue. I think when we were all playing, I think one of our friends had an issue for a while, but he restarted his PlayStation or whatever, or PC or the game.
It
got him in 5 minutes. So there's something going on there as well. But Helldivers is very good. I'm actually pretty excited to go back to it. We haven't played it for a minute. Main vein right now is going to be Persona 3 Reload. It's a great game. The pacing is phenomenal. Everything, like I said beforehand, people were telling me there's some grinding in it. This game does not have really any grinding for me. You're still going through towers. There's still over 200 of them. I'm at 190 something right now. I'm just now started December. I think the game goes up to a full year round. So I think you start off in April, So I'm getting there. I know the only thing I know that I let myself, like, I don't spoil myself, but I was like, hey, is there like a bad ending, good ending kind of thing, and where does that like start? Because I want to make sure to have a save right beforehand, just in case I fuck up and not get the bad ending. And like, okay, December 31st, like that's when you get to make the big decision that would be your bad ending or good ending. Like, okay, well, I'm at the beginning of December. I'm rolling into right at the end of it. I guarantee I will 100% be done with that game. But next time we do this podcast, and I got the new Prince of Persia game sitting right there in front of me from GameFly, so I'm excited to dive into that.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, Persona 3 has been great. Love it. Love the music. It's like I said, the pacing is really well as far as like even like just introducing new things to you as you get through the school year. Not just with school, but like with like, hey, there's a new character here. Hey, there's like now like a new small like little mechanic. Hey, your guys are now getting like different type of upgrades as far as you just hanging out with them, which is a lot of really nice. I think this is the only one that I played to where like your main team members, like you don't get to have their social links even start until like well over halfway through the game. So for 3 of them, essentially the ones that you could technically date, you have to have one of your stats maxed out. So right now I have all my 3 stats maxed out. It is courage, charm, and academics. And I've already had all 3 of those already maxed out. So right now I'm at the point to where it's like, okay, we're all done and we're not going to Tartarus tonight. What do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, man. I have nothing to really upgrade, so like I'm just trying to go through all of, like the small things that might give me a little bonus here and there. But for the most part, I'm just making it to the end right now. So excited to do that. I will probably dive into Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and then from there, after
that game looks good.
It looks really great. Once I get that and kind of give myself a little bit of breath after that JRPG, I will 100% be going into Final Fantasy 12. So very excited to start that up this year. Dark Forces Remastered came out, and it looks fantastic. It's still the old school sprites. Like they didn't just pop in like CG models. It's just like a nice HD clean version of that game. It works phenomenal on the Steam Deck. It's really, really good. So like, you got like controls now, so you can look up and stuff like that, which is nice. I ran through like the first level real quick, just be like, I want to see how this feels, and like I fucking ran through that fucking level.
It's so funny the way you just like where you describe a feature in a game where you're like, you can look up now.
You could still look up, but you had to go like the page up and down just to look up, and you had to bring it back down because it doesn't recenter itself like in the original game, because that wasn't something that you really did a whole bunch. I mean, like think of the first Doom, you're not really looking up a whole bunch in that game. Yeah. So it's kind of the same kind of idea and the kind of thing that happens. But it's great. It's got a nice little like handful of behind the features, just like you would if it did like a remaster of like the Turtles games or Sonic games. Where you get some like concept art in there, and they have like this really cool like it's like they made small pieces of the animation, but they had it to where there would have been like a cutscene or something like that would happen if you got killed by the final boss. To where it would show your character laying on the ground and like the Dark Trooper getting ready to charge up and first person of you getting shot in the face kind of deal. I'm like, oh, so you got to see a little bit of like the previs of that. And then the real cool part about that bonus feature stuff is I go in there and it's got like I think what it was called, like the archive or something like that. And you read it and like, okay, it's got like a little dialogue box like, hey, when we were showing off this game, this is like we had this one level we made that we would bring to CES. And that's what everybody got to play before they played the game, but the developers thought it was too hard, so we left it out of the game. There are parts of that level that are still in certain levels of the actual game, but he's like, and this is the kind of like layout of it. Like, cool, and like I'm going to zoom in on it. I press the button, it drops you in that level. So you have the full CES like demo level you can play through. I didn't even think I was going to jump in. I thought I was going to zoom in on the map because it shows you like a weird map version of it. But then you jump into it, and it's fully right there, rendered in the HD version, everything like that. It's really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
bring back special features in fucking video games.
Yeah, man. And you still get them here and there. I mean, fucking Atari, whatever it was, had fantastic.
That's not the same. That's a like a all.
The Turtles, Cowabunga Collection had a bunch of that.
Yes, it did.
Not X-Men. Mega Man when they did those, they had a bunch of stuff like that. So you get them here and there, not that often though. But they should do it a lot more often for sure. Playing through on Star Wars Sundays, Rogue Squadron 2, Rebel Leader. And it's good. The new controller did help out a little bit, but it still has a little bit of the sensitivity of the Joy-Con, Jesus. the thumbsticks. So I can get the more precise aiming out of it. I just have to be very, very gentle with it because it has a very small amount of space before it says, "Oh, you want to go left now." I'm like, okay, well. So I'm having a better time with it. It's still there though. But yeah, check that out. Twitch.tv/testingroompod. Or on the YouTubes later on that week, youtube.com/thetestingroom. That's where I'll be dropping all of those there. And then lastly, as far as games concerned, I haven't played a lot of Snap recently because I've been playing a new game while working. And that's Balaltro.
Just casually dropped that one.
So Balaltro is like a... I don't think I'm not pronouncing it right. It's Balatro.
I think it's blowing up, man.
It is blowing up. So it's like poker on crack. There is zero monotonization on here, so you don't have to worry about any of that, which is nice for me personally. Going from Marvel Snap to this, and it's so it's usual kind of thing of you're trying to beat the. It's not the bid. I'm gonna lose all.
The blind, you mean?
Blind, thank you. So you got small blind, big blind, and then like a boss battle essentially. And this is kind of like a run-based thing. So if you get to a point to where you don't beat one of the blinds or the boss blind, then they will have you start all over. Because you will, as you go through here, you'll get some money towards the end of the blind, like how many cards do you have left, or how many hands do you have left? Because you're given 4 hands to get to the blind. So you're getting pairs, you're getting straights, whatever you want to do, poker style combinations to get your points. Which let's say a pair is you get 20 points times 2, and depends on what you play, you might get more points on top of that. So 2s are 2s, 5s are 5s, face cards are 10, ace is 11. To add on to that main section, which will give you that modifier, which will get to what you get as far as like your overall chips, and that's how you beat the blind. You have to do it within those 4 hands. Once you beat that first one, you get to the shop. So with whatever you won for that, you get to take it to the shop, and the shop will have Joker cards, which are like modifiers. So if I have, let's say, anytime that I put down a diamond card and it gets points for putting down that diamond card, like let's say it's a 3 or a 5 or whatever, if that works into the equation of my hand, then that gives me a × 2 multiplier, or like a 2 added to my multiplier. And that's how you get up to the higher end levels of giant... I forgot the fucking word again. It starts with a B.
The blind?
I just want to say bid every fucking time. The blind. I'm not a poker guy, okay? I'm learning as I go. And it just kind of ramps up. I haven't been able to get past like the 6 ante, which is like the levels, if you will, because you got the small blind, big blind, boss blind. You can skip the smaller big blinds to get like modifiers, but you don't get currency for the shop. So if you want to kind of do that, you can. But it feels real good when you got a bunch of those multipliers popping off, and like I do like a straight flush, and all of a sudden it's like bing, 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 times 12, times 10, plus 15, this and that. You got a Joker card that's like a misprint Joker card, so it could give you no modification. It could give you 25 for your times, or this and that, to where it's like it's just gonna be a random kind of thing that happens. But there's like over 150 Jokers in the game, and you unlock them as you play, the more you do. So it's got a nice little progression system, and something I play in the background while I'm working. I can come over. It's not, there's no timer on it or anything like that, so I can just play my hand, leave it at that, do whatever I gotta do for work, come back to it, okay, play a couple more cards, come back to my work, things like that. So it's been real nice. And ever since I've started playing that, I just haven't felt the need to start Marvel. They put out a patch. I watched the patch. I sometimes watch somebody play it on Twitch, but I just haven't cared to mess around with it too much anymore. So I think I'm on the slow decline for Snap, but we'll see. We will see.
Is that because you're no longer gambling with Marvel and just actually gambling without real money?
Yeah.
But is it really gambling at that point?
Yeah.
Well, what I mean by that is like you can take your chances with Marvel, right? And you're essentially like you are just gambling for all intent and purposes. But this is just like we've taken the middleman out. There's no face on it. You're just
don't get me wrong. I think Marvel Snap has a lot more cool effects and stuff like that. Like there's one. The only thing I will say bad about the Balaltro is that I don't like, because they have like foil packs, right? What's that one noise you want to hear when you open up a foil pack? It doesn't really make the noise. It just kind of dissipates, and the cards come out of it. I'm like, I want to hear that clack, 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 and like the opening or the tearing or something like that. I want that when I click on a booster pack. Otherwise, just say, here's 5 cards. Pick one of the 5. Like, it's just... only bad thing I can say about it. The game is...
Give me my dopamine.
The game is a lot of fun. I think it's like $15, so it's not super expensive. It's got definitely...
Just got rated.
Legs.
They just changed its rating from like... it's a big deal from like everyone to 18 plus. Because
Really?
like... Yeah.
I'm sure there's some
because
Joker
like
cards that are
gambling,
kind
I
of weird and
guess.
freaky, maybe. It does have...
I don't think it's that. I think it's because it's actually like...
Like the themes.
gambling
the theme of
Yeah,
gambling,
fair enough,
right?
yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
So
Get them hooked early
so-
on the free one.
I will say, I think, I know that they had the demo come out and it blew up and everybody loved it. I personally, it seems very well made. I just don't care about poker
if
at all.
if I didn't have like time, like a couple minutes in between like each call I do for work, like I would not be playing this game probably.
Yeah.
I'd rather be playing Persona or something like that. But since this is the kind of small, quick little time waster I can do in the background of things, it's nice to have. The art style is, I want to say it has like an Inscription type of art style to it. It's like gritty. It kind of is a little spoopy, kind of creepy kind of deal.
Sure.
Because like when you go into the boss battle, it's like everything gets red and it. Man, those bosses really piss you off. Like they have modifiers for the bosses, so it's like. Any diamond cards you want to play, you're not going to get any points for them. They can you can put it down and you'll get your if it's a pair, you'll get the pair score. But whatever, if it's an 8, you're not going to get the 8 points for it. Oh, hey, it's going to have like a multiplier or a times thing for you dropping down a diamond card or whatever. It's not going to get that for the boss battle. I get fucked sometimes, especially with those higher bids. So, but yeah, other than that,
So if you had to tell somebody a card deck building game to play, and they asked between Snap and Balatro, whatever it is, Balatro, what would you recommend? What would you say? Where
deck
would they
building,
rank?
Marvel Snap, because this is not really deck
Okay.
building. This is like deck running. This is like deck roguelike, I guess you would call it, or something like that. To where like
it is a roguelike.
because like you're
yeah.
unlocking those jokers and stuff, but like you're picking them, you're buying them from the shop. You can only have 5 at a time, and you're kind of building a deck at that point. And you can change your deck, like so. Like, hey, if I got this one card that allows me to change this ace to a different suit, or I can change it to be the same as that, so you can have more than 4 of every card. Kind of mess around with like the statistics that way, which is nice. But as soon as you don't beat that one boss or don't beat that one blind, you're back to square one. Now you're unlocking decks. Like my deck right now I play gives me like 1 extra hand, but it all has all 53 or whatever cards in it, right? So it's you're changing that as you play, but at the very beginning, unless like that deck says, hey, it does this, like it's just a normal pack of cards. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's a nice little go through. If you're into like card games, into poker games, like this is a very fun game. It's not invasive as far as monotonizing and stuff like that. So it's very nice to see that in a game that could have 1,000% made buku bucks off of just charging $1 for a pack or some bullshit.
So I have a
Sounds
question
like
for
a
you.
lot of math.
It can
it's
be,
poker,
or you can just not
right?
care as like me
Or not-
and just
not-
kind of
no,
go
but
through it as you know.
That's
like,
gambling, I should say.
yeah, so I'm just trying to figure it out, but it's just
What,
fun.
what were you gonna say?
No, I said you were like it's math, and I was like it's gambling. Like that's gambling a little bit.
Yeah, you're still counting your
Yeah,
points.
but you
like
said you
that.
had a question, didn't you?
Oh yeah, sorry. So because since now that Marvel Snap is out of the picture, or it's not out of the picture, but it's slowly moving out.
It's on the bench.
Do you feel like you have room in your life for like another live service game to sort of take?
The reason why I
place? Like,
played
do you-
Snap so much is because I could play it while I was working. Playing
Yeah, but
something
like
like
this
14,
technically,
I can't.
there are other live service games that like are always running, so you can just stand in areas with no repercussion of like losing progression or dying or
So for me to
getting
do
logged
that,
out.
I have about, let's say, like 3 to 5 minutes in between
Mm-hmm.
things I do at work. I mean, I would hate to be in the middle of battle or some type of fight, and then I have to
You
go
don't have to be.
do a call for work.
I've been fishing.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing is like if I'm going to play 14, it's going to get to progress so I can get up there because I'm not going to pay money to upgrade my level.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a level 90 fisher. What's your fisher? Yeah, my level's
It doesn't
up
matter
there.
what my fisher is because my monk is like so fucking low level. I need to get that up there if we're going to play actual stuff.
I was just wondering. I just didn't know if maybe there was room in your heart for a new one.
We're just asking questions.
I've thought
Just
about it
asking
many
questions.
times. We talked about a whole fun possible vacation that we could take. It's
Question. Here's a question for you, though. I know you say you don't want to pay for your character to get up there.
I've
But,
thought
like-
about it, but I don't want to.
Yeah, but like, what happens when a new expansion comes out? Like, you're not going to miss anything, right? Like, you're not going to miss the story. Like, everybody, all of us, would be on like a fresh new story. None of us know what's coming. So then, what's it matter?
Well, look. I mean, yeah. I don't. Yeah.
For somebody who
You can
doesn't
always go
care as
back.
much about the story, I care a little bit more about the story.
You can always go, no, but you can always go and experience that story. But when it comes to like experiencing the new story, it's going to be fresh for everybody.
But I have to get to that level to do so.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, by that point, you could just be at the level.
Dude, I'm not spending money for a subscription and then spending money on top of that to skip the like levels. I don't want to spend time on this. The whole point of you spending
What if you-
$15
what
a
if
month
you
is you
didn't
want to
have
spend
to?
time on this.
I mean, that's fair. It's true.
Yeah. What if you didn't have to pay to skip levels?
Yeah, if I have to pay skip levels, I'd think about it. I'd have one character, or just like, okay, I'll put my character up here to play with you guys. I'm gonna play with my monk from when I don't play with you guys.
Message received.
Yep.
Oh,
That's all I need to
do
know.
not buy me a level up point. Do not do it. Because I still want to experience the leveling up and stuff like that. Like, I really liked going through the pugilist storyline and everything like that, getting to monk. Like, that was a lot of fun.
And I
Hey
agree.
man,
The
you'll
thing
never
is-
not be able to do that. Just so you know, I've gone through many classes.
Oh yeah, no, but I
So-
want to. I have a way of like experiencing MMOs, and that's
Yeah.
how I'm gonna do it.
And I think,
One of these days I'll
and
get
to your point, it's like it's like I didn't want to get in my own way of like what Alex is doing, but it's like, you know, because you're like, oh, it's just it's starting over. It's like, yeah, it's true, it's a new story, but it's like, but all the characters that are in that story, the only reason that we care about all those characters being in that story is because we know from the past, you know what I mean, like that.
Is
But,
it because
but
you
being
spend
as a
time
new
with
story,
those
we don't even
characters?
know we're going to care about them yet. They could introduce a whole new range of characters. Like they might travel with us, but from that moment on, they might just be like, "Hey,
No.
I want to go set up shop."
We know that's not true though, because they've already
We
said
don't,
like,
we don't know that
yeah,
much.
we do.
We don't know. It's a new story.
Either
Yeah,
way,
It's a new story for everybody.
that's it for my games. I did watch Shogun. FX Hulu has a new joint called Shogun. I enjoy it. 1600s, Japan feudal shit. It's fun. The
Yep.
only thing that I can say is kind of odd about it, and I know Alex, you said you haven't watched it yet, so I might kind of ruin it for you. It's not ruining story. It's just now you'll probably be thinking about this. And Christian, tell me if I'm wrong. There's one guy who's like the English dude, right? He's the one who gets captured and blah, 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 blah. His voice and his character sounds like he is doing a character Tom Hardy has done.
You know what's funny that you say that is I
Like,
didn't.
is this like, it sound like Bane, or does it sounds like him
This-
doing a character? Sounds like Tom. Sounds like him doing a character.
This isn't what I said, or that's not what I said, but it is. It's funny that you mentioned. So Alexa, when we were watching it, she was like, "Who the fuck is this discount Tom Hardy over here yapping about, blah blah blah?"
Yeah.
And you guys know that's what she said. I had a different take, and Alex, you will. I want, since I think you're the only other person who watched this show like I did, and you were also upset when it got canceled. To me, my hot take was that I was like, no, this just makes me so mad that Netflix canceled Marco Polo.
Oh yeah, Marco Polo was dope.
God, so goddamn good, and I'm
And they're like, hey, we'll give you like a one spin-off of like 1,000 Eyes, because like that'll be good enough, right? And you're like, no, because you removed
No.
it from the story, and just no.
No, it's not good enough. No,
It's
I
not
just
good
wanted you to
enough.
not. I wanted you to keep making the fucking show that I liked. But yeah, it was one of those moments where I'm sitting there and I'm like, because they, it's similar, right? Similar-ish, but it's like, the 1600s, and then they've got a fucking English person who comes over and does the whole thing, wants to trade, and he's fighting with the Portuguese and the Spanish, blah, blah, blah. And so you have these moments where it's like, it's similar enough, and so you're like, I was just sitting there looking at the screen, and I'm just like, God, I'll never forgive Netflix for fucking canceling Marco Polo.
Not only was Marco Polo great, but so was the intro. Like they did that like
Oh, so
watercolor sort of
good.
intro with it. It was amazing.
Yeah, but
That was a good
I
show.
also, I didn't mention, but yeah, I also have seen the first 2 episodes of Shogun that they have
It's
out
good.
now, and
It's
it was
I'm
good.
interested in it. Yeah, I like lots of. They had the one girl from Monarch. in there.
That's my thing. Is the biggest standout for me is
Which one?
The teacher daughter.
The daughter, not the mom. Okay.
Yeah, the daughter.
I said which one, and then immediately in my head went, oh, the Japanese one, obviously.
Yeah.
Not the other one.
All of the only other thing they'll say is to your point, Preston, about the guy who's trying to pretend to be Tom Hardy. He's, in my opinion, he's the weakest actor of the show. I mean, just
everything else, and everyone else,
weakest.
as far as actors, is phenomenal.
But God,
there's something a little extra about him.
Every actor on the Japanese side is incredible.
Chef's kiss, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that carries the show for me right now. Those actors are so goddamn good.
I'm just glad I have a show I can watch that's like a weekly kind of thing. So I haven't had one for a minute. So,
Fair.
Yeah, that's it. For me.
Yeah.
Actually, really, before you hop into your week, I totally forgot. There's one more game that I want to mention that I wanted to tell you guys about that I forgot I played. Samurai Bringer. Did I tell you guys about Samurai Bringer?
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Samurai Bringer is this game that I picked up on the most recent Steam sale, but it was something that I saw during this like Next Fest sort of situation that was going on. However, it is emulating a period in time of games harder than I've probably ever seen, while also like introducing like modern stuff. So it's a roguelite, but it's similar to it falls on the Hades side of roguelites, where it gives you so many tools to be able to start building the thing that you want, right? Like it's similar to Hades in that you're, as opposed to a weapon, you are selecting a weapon, but you're more selecting like a class kind of thing, you know? And as you go on, there's like skills that you pick up and other gear and things like that, and then you can start finding ways after you kill enemies and you get a bunch of money to start saving those things, so that when the next run starts, you can just go right from where you were at, because every day that goes on in the game, enemies get a little bit harder each day that passes, and so you get to the point, right, where the loop is obviously that as the game goes on, you get to about a certain amount of hours in, that your day one, you're as powerful, like you're just annihilating things that are in front of you, right? But the coolest part about the game for me is the story is like the fun. It does the whole Yamato no Orochi story, right? Like it's that classic sort of Japanese myth, but it's a isometric game, but it has like PS1 control, so like the camera is controlled by L1 R1.
Okay.
Right, so you're doing that. You're moving. It reminds me sort of like if you think of like Tomba and things like that. Like it kind of has that look, like that chunky PS1 look, right? And it's got you're controlling the camera with the shoulders, and your analog stick is like a twin stick shooter where your right stick is controlling the positioning of your character as you're walking forward, right? So like left stick is moving you forward, and then right stick can like make my character like turn around and face something else behind him or whatever, while you're controlling the camera there. And the move system is the coolest thing, where it's like I said, you're grabbing all these skills, and you are building out basically like action game move sets. So you can be like, when I press square, for instance, like I want it to be like slice, like a horizontal slice, right? And then I want to have like fire and ice, or fire and evil, or fire and lightning, or fire and wind, or whatever. Or I want it to have a beam that comes off it. Like you have all these different modifiers that you can toss between those each actions. And then it's like, okay, what happens? Like you could say like with an axe, right? There's a 3-hit combo or a 4-hit combo. So then you get to pick each hit what you want Square to do for that combo. So you can be like, I want the first one to be a horizontal slice. I want the second one to be a thrust. I want the third one to be a slash up, and then I want the fourth one to be a slash down, right? Like, and you can design, and there's plenty of different combinations that you can do there, and other moves that I'm not even thinking of, but you can have it set up to like that, and then like set up each action, and then same thing for your heavier attack with triangle, and then you have a separate like weapon that you can have on R2. There's like the customization's so deep. It's really really fun. But the reason I stuck with it is because I have never felt something that's like, you know, we've always seen like games that have done like the whole like PS1 inspired, or it's like, oh, it's trying for the retro thing, right? Where we're finally at a period where it's as hard as it is for me to say that like retro for people who are making games, like, you know, you're no longer emulating a Super Nintendo game, right, or like a Master System game. It's now I'm emulating PS1. I'm emulating Dreamcast, right? Like that's where I'm at, and so, or like N64, like those things, and so it's like this. It just the sound design is perfect. Like it's just like that crunchy PS1 sound, and the pixels are all like it's like big and blocky. Like the way it's so, but they do it in a modern way so that like. Your character is like big and blocky, but you know the game runs well. But then like when you go to fight the final, I mean spoiler I guess, but the final boss is Orochi, and you're when you fight him, like it's this giant 8-headed dragon. It does things that the PS1 would never be able to do, but it's still it emulates enough of the style that it still has the sort of jagged edges that you would kind of. It was cool as hell. So I just wanted to shout it out.
So apparently that's their thing. That's their second game. The first game was Metal Bringer.
I think Metal Bringer is their game that is coming out. I think Metal Bringer is their second game.
No, it looks like this is their second game. I think Metal Bringer came out in 2021 is what it looks like. But yeah, same sort of thing is what it looks like. Like the roguelike and the same sort of design. It's just like a futuristic thing versus the samurai stuff. But yeah, that's cool. It looks cool.
No. So yeah, I just looked up on Steam. Metal Bringer is their second game. Metal Bringer is their release date shows is coming soon. On Steam here.
Maybe it's on Steam. I'm on a different website, which is a very Asian website. Yeah. When I just I just googled the game you're talking about because I was like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then as I googled it, Metal Bringer popped up too, and I was like,
and I could be
similar.
Maybe
I wonder if the same company.
I know that it's an Asian developer, so maybe Metal Bringer has maybe the coming soon in Steam is that it's like it's released in the West. Like maybe that's the case. Yeah. I have no idea. So that totally could be it.
They look cool.
Yeah, but Samurai Bringer was cool as fuck. I've enjoyed it. It's one of those. It's much like Hades. It's one of those games that you can just pick up and do a run of and have fun with it. But I wanted to shout it out. So for anybody who thinks that era is cool, and I heard the sound effect. Like if you listen to the trailer for 1 second and you listen to the sound effect, the crunch that comes off of it, you're just like, oh god, that is taking me back. Like it is. They nail it harder than I've ever seen somebody nail it before. They nail it, so it's cool.
Nice. All right, I guess I'll do my week. My week, pretty simple. We did play Helldivers, which was absolutely awesome.
A lot of fun.
Looks incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I went into it, I'd already seen some clips of it, and it looked really fun. You were right, Christian, when you said like it is made by the people you play with, right? Like I could see myself hopping in and doing a few games or a few matches to like level up, but it is absolutely made to like play with your friends. When you play with your friends, it is.
Yeah, it's just not the same as playing with randos. I know people do play with randos and they have a good time, but it's just not. It's not the same.
I need to I could see myself playing alone a little bit to try and get used to it because I struggled a little bit with the keyboard and mouse. Only like the shooting part is really easy, right? But they have like to call in your little care packages, your goodie bags. My hands are up here at like WASD, but then I have to like take my pinky and hit like way down here on control, and then use WASD to do the like up down left right, whatever the
whereas controller, all you have to do is just hold L1 and then you do the D-pad.
Right. So it's a little bit challenging with like the left hand, especially since I don't have full access with the left hand, right? But it was okay. Like as a whole, it was okay. It was fun. It was tough.
Yeah,
It got
can
like
be.
we did that harder level, and for you to be like, oh yeah, this is like the 3rd level up, and there's like 5 more difficulties. Like, oh goodness.
No, there's way more than that,
gracious.
but yeah, that was when we ended on that challenging. That's the 4th difficulty up.
Yeah, and we did not do great on that one.
Well, we started out good. It got away from us very quickly.
That
It did get away from us real quick, and I think there was a part of it like where Matt was going off on his own, and you were kind of going off. You guys didn't really coordinate to go off together, so like I would kind of split with one person, and Preston would be with the other sort of thing. Sometimes Preston and I would be off by ourselves while you two were running ahead, and like. On that higher difficulty, we needed to be more clear. You just cannot do it on that one because you get overwhelmed real quick.
Yeah. Although the next session that Preston and I played, we did a lot of duos thing, and it actually worked out. We did okay. Yeah, it just depends. I think it's just hard. There's sometimes where the mission gets away from you, like it did on us, where you just start getting swarmed, and there's just nothing, and it just never ends, and you don't know where they're coming from, and then there's other times where it's just like, oh, we somehow threaded the needle. It just worked out. Like,
Which
it's just,
I think is what leads to a really fun, good, like always going game, right? Like that's the thing. Sometimes the bugs win or the robots win. Sometimes you win. It's that constant battle.
yeah.
So it was very cool. There was some fun news that came out of that game this week, as in like the devs were like, hey, we have one guy we call the game master who just like their job is to control the balance of this game. Sometimes that means like waking up in the middle of the night, they'll drop some like extra resources for the enemies and like good luck, right? And I thought that was very cool. There was another piece of news that came out where the community, as wholesome as it is, rallied around one cause, which was there was a griefer. Since there is friendly fire turned on, they were dropping in and killing.
Gantz, I think is, or Gantz the Demon, something like that.
Gantz the Demon, yeah. And I only remember that because Gantz is an anime or a manga, but yeah.
It also has an anime.
Yeah, in a movie, very creepy movie, by the way.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to watch it, it does not translate well to CG.
No,
terrifying.
I remember you were adamant
it's terrifying.
that I watched that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those things you watch, you go, everyone should experience this horror. But yeah, like the whole community rallied around this guy. Like they put his name out there, they put him on blast. They're like, if you see this guy, like
kill him.
Take care of him before he turns on you. And they even put a bounty on his head and said like, if anybody kills him, you will get X amount of like in-game currency to spend on other stuff. So it was just, very fun stuff to see everybody taken to this game. It's a blast. It made me want to go watch Starship Troopers, which is goofy. Because I remember seeing that movie in theaters when it came out, being on that cusp of like slightly too young for the source material and the content. And like, because like, there's some sex and stuff, and like it is what it is. Not really sex. There's like nudity and when everybody's in the bathroom, like showering and stuff, because it's space. That's not what I'm talking about when I say too young. Like just the actual political concept.
Yeah, I mean
it's over our age group, right?
It's only later in life that you realize that is like a whole satire on fascism and how quickly how quickly the lines get blurred between fascism and patriotism and the whole thing. Yeah, you don't get that as a child. Yeah.
No, we're just like bugs go boom sort of thing.
Yeah, bugs go boom. Those goddamn commie bugs.
It did make me want to go back and watch that movie, which I'll probably do this week while traveling.
Although,
because go ahead.
What's funny is when you mentioned that about that's very clearly what Starship Troopers is about, dude. If you go onto the subreddit, there are people that desperately don't want games or things to be political. Newsflash, your whole life is political. You just don't.
Yeah.
You're just too dumb to get it. But there's people on there making giant exposés about how Starship Troopers is not a commentary on fascism or patriotism or other things. Like, it's actually a celebration of America and all these other things. And you're like, you just couldn't be more wrong. Like, you just couldn't be.
Look, man, don't yuck somebody else's yum, but there are so many things you can get behind in life that isn't planting your flag on the hill of Starship Troopers. Just the media itself wasn't strong enough to really stand alone and be lasting this many years later.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Like, it's very clearly that's what it's making a joke of, and it's not even that great of a movie, but that's fine. Like, it's supposed to be satirical, it's supposed to do the thing.
Yeah.
So then when a game like this comes out, it's like, nah, dude, that's clearly what it's doing. Like, it's okay, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You can just have you were already having
Enjoy
fun
it.
beforehand. The only reason you stopped having fun is because you heard somebody say this. Just it's okay. Let yourself enjoy it. It's fine that it's making fun of the thing that you like. It's fine.
There are some things in this game that I absolutely love, like when it comes to just like the actual creation
Freedom?
of the world. Yeah, because
Democracy?
the creation of the world, which is like, I have never had more fun loading into a level than like watching my friends run over this little pad and they just go choo, and it opens up and they drop down and they just shoot out, and like you can be left in the ship alone, but then you go stand on it and it shoots you out of the ship towards the planet, and like it is so satisfying to launch into each level and mission like that.
Even the sound design of when your feet go into the pause where it's like shunk shunk, and you're just like, yeah. I will say, there's nothing. It's all, they nail it. I wouldn't change a single thing about it. That being said, there are times where I get a little upset because it's so very clear, and I know if Jake ever looks up videos of this game, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because Preston, I said it to Preston and he agreed. There is just absolutely no excuse that we did not get an ODST game from Halo that was like this. Yep. Where, like, think about what ended up being what is their wave-based horde mode, firefight. Think about if Firefight was fleshed out more, and you were ODST dropping onto the ring, and it was you drop out of one of the ships, the Halo ships, and you go onto the ring, and then you try to survive and like fight as many Covenant or Flood or whatever it is, right? And that was your wave-based shooter. People would still be playing that game today if it ever came out. And we never got. It's just so frustrating that it's like a team. I want it. It's too late. It'll never happen now. Because if they do it now, it'll just feel like you just ripped off Helldivers, and everyone's gonna be like, go fuck yourself. But it's just so frustrating. It's like, God, it was right there. It was right there. Your guys' slogan was even, "We're dropping into hell." Like, come on.
Very short-sighted.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I played that with these guys. It was a lot of fun. I continued to play Final Fantasy 14 because when I travel, I don't always take a mouse with me. Actually, I never take a mouse with me because I have my laptop. And I have found doing casual things like fishing, I can do with 2 fingers on the trackpad and WASD.
I have been on that struggle. I would not wish that on anybody, but it can be done.
It can be done. The cool thing is, I was actually able to master ocean fishing to the point where I got my dope shark mount. It's this huge great white Preston that you sit on and you like lay on him to ride him, and he's a flying floating mount, but he has like a gold helmet with like blades coming off of it, and then he has like other little like crazy like war fins coming off, so he looks very cool.
Very cool.
But I got that, and then to your point, Preston, when you're working, what do you do in between? Well, when I work in between, I just like go to my different little fishing locations, and I'm just checking them off the list, collecting all the fish, getting all the titles and the special fish glams.
So are you going for God Angler or whatever it is?
Might as well.
Good luck, man. I know somebody. There are people who have been trying to get that title because there's a couple. There's like one notorious one called Cinder Surprise that has like a 0.001% drop rate. There are people, if you look on the subreddit, there are people who have been trying to get that achievement for 8 years.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I will be one of them. Because my luck when it comes to drop rates on games. This game, so here's the goofy thing about fishing. I won't spend too much time on it. There was something funny that happened that I was going to tell you guys anyway. So you get all these fishing skills, right? And the point is like, I use a skill called patience, which makes catching fish harder. So it drops my ability to catch fish, but it raises the chance that you get like a large, like more unique fish, right?
Yeah.
So to counteract that, you have special hook sets, like a powerful hook or precision hook to like counteract those things. So you spend all your time in ocean fishing, you're trying to get your mount, you're doing all this other stuff, you're learning all these skills you need. Like, I've never prepped more for an MMO than when I was trying to get this mount. I had a website up that said, here's the route you're taking, here's all the fish that can come. So then I had to plan, there's 3 stops, so I had to plan the fish and say, well, there's 3 types of bait that go with these fish. So then it's like, which ones don't interfere with each other that use the same bait that give you the most average of points? I'm going to go for these 2. But if you catch a spectral, it's going to put you into the spectral like fishing mode, which is like double the points in different fish that have to go below the line and decide which 2 fish am I going for. Here, at the same time, I had to do that for every single one. And at the same time, I had to plan on, well, what's the 3 objectives you're going to get? Because they may or may not tie into the fish I'm going after. So, like, I had notes up that were, like, this long for each stop. So I knew exactly what I was going to do to maximize my time fishing to do it. Because, like, for the first 5 or 6 times I was doing it, I needed 10,000 points. And there's still 2 more achievements I have to get for 16 and 20,000. But people were getting 17, 19, 16. I was the only person below 10. So, like, clearly I'm doing something wrong. Spent all this time prepping. I learned all these. I did macros. I had 4 different macros. I've never used macros for anything in an MMO before, and I set those up. Like, I was into it, which is probably why I'm so into just, like, normal fishing now. But I learned all this stuff to then when I go to, like, Limsa Lamensa and all these other, like, just normal fishing holes, there's one special fish at each one that you need to catch to complete your list. And it's a triple bite. So you're like, naturally, I'm going to use my patience. It only spawns between, like, 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. AORZ a time, which actually isn't that bad. It's like, the day's on, like, an hour cycle, so it's really not.
There's some that start at, like, I know for a fact, I know somebody who did it. There's some that's like, oh, it's 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. our time, and you're like, oh, great.
Oh, just wait till I get... There's some that only spawn with a specific chain of weather, the same way Ixion did.
You have to set up alerts. Yeah.
I know. So that'll be that's far down the road. But anyway, we'll see if I still care then. But anyway, the goofy thing about it is, like, clearly I'm going to use these buffs, I'm going to use these skills, I'm going to catch this fish and nail it. And every time I threw it out, the 3, like, bite mark exclamation points popped up. I'm like, here it is. Boom. And I wouldn't catch it. And I learned that you really only get, like, 1 chance per, like, that small little window. It's like once an hour or whatever. And what I found is any mitigation from your normal catch, you will fail. So they want you to use 0 buffs. They want you to do cast, reel. That's it. So, like, all those other skills I've trained myself to use now don't matter. All they want you to do is cast and reel. And if you do it that way, as soon as you get the 3 exclamation point, you're going to get it. But the catch to that is the chance of it popping is much smaller. So this is like the biggest bunch of a-holes. And, like, I finally figured that out today, and I caught a couple of them during the window. Because you do... it for the low level that I'm on, it's almost guaranteed that, like, you will get 1 chance per window, so it's not a big deal. But when I hadn't figured that out, I mean, I'd gone days, like, trying to, like, show up. Like, if I was just on, I'd be like, oh, it's time, let me pop over there and see what happens. Fail. And then I learned, like, yeah, just cast and reel, like, video game. So, anyway.
Godspeed, man.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, there's only so much I've learned I can do in this stupid cast, even with keyboard and mouse. Like, I don't feel comfortable healing, and I don't feel comfortable. I can tank, actually, if I have you as a healer or somebody else I know.
Yeah.
If I'm by myself, I don't tank, but I can't heal, and my healer is the only one that's not level capped. Like, he's the one I need to level,
right?
But I can't, right? So so right now I'm trying to just gear up. So I run the PvP on my healer because it doesn't matter if I heal or not. Get my chunk of XP. Everything else I'll do in, like, my Dragoon or something just to get the marks. so I can gear up. And that's what I've been doing, gearing and fishing, man. Gearing and fishing. It's my life. Catching some fish, earning some gearing and fishing. That's... and I think that is all I played. Just Helldivers and that. I'm gonna dive into a new game. Ooh. Preston got me an amazing birthday present, which is the Final Fantasy X card game, which is very similar to like a Magic type card game, right? Table-based card game for anybody that's wondering. The card is turned around because I had the box open and I put it back in backwards. But the cards and the art on the cards are incredible, and I think I sent a picture. The shiny card that it comes with is the scene of Yuna and Titus at Lake Macalania, like together. And
can I just say though, you sent those photos, and there was a second card that you sent, and it's one of Jecht. It kind of pissed me off that Jecht looked cooler than he ever did in the goddamn video game. And I'm like, where were you at, bro? Like, he had this fucking massive sword, and he's like, straight through this. And I'm like, bro, you would have been infinitely cooler if you looked like that.
Yeah, because it's like, I assume the artwork they went with is like Jecht as the protector. Right, of Braska, not,
to my knowledge,
not like the Jecht that's Titus' dad.
I think it's in your photo, but I think because of the copyright, I think it's from him in Dissidia, the fighting game.
Interesting. It could be. So the artwork is interesting because they pulled, obviously, there's only so many characters in 10, so you have to pull cards from everywhere, right? So, like, they have, Orin, Kamari, they have everyone you could think, but they also have to offset it because, like any of those card games, you need, like, different elements or whatever they choose to use for their elements. So like they have an RN-like type and a Lulu-like type because they brought Pain from 10-2 into it. But then they also need like other minion cards. So they have like just random classes of people.
Preston was like, Pain's in this card game, huh?
Yeah. Preston. The argument we always have for Riku and everything else, it's not doing well after you got me the other present, which is this book that very clearly states Riku is 15 years old. 15.
Get on the fucking ground! Get on the fucking ground!
I was younger than that when I played the game, I'm pretty sure.
So I flipped through this earlier, not quickly. Like I took my time to flip through it, but like, man, am I excited to like just actually take the time to read through this thing. So I got 2 incredible presents. That's what I'm going to dive into.
It's like 10 through art and stuff
14.
like that. 10 through 14.
10 through 14. Yeah, which is pretty dope. Now, so here's the catch, and here's what I'd be interested to know, because this is volume 3, right? And clearly 16 is out, 15 is out, and so on. The 14 artwork is like the first game artwork, right? Which makes sense.
Not Realm Reborn.
So I wonder if like volume 4 with the other games
starts
also
off with 14,
includes more,
but does
of
more
14.
Realm Reborn and
maybe
expansions.
It'd be interesting.
Here's the only reason. So they would do. I see 14 and the expansions could probably fit in there too, right? Like they would do that. 16 obviously there's a place. I don't know if they feel like 15 had a good enough reception.
They'll still put it on there. It's still
game. It's everything. It is like that's the purpose. Like this is volume 3, so it's literally like everything. Now the sections will vary because 13 section is massive because there were 3 of them and people seem to like it. So 10's massive. 11 isn't that big, even though 11 lasted a billion years, right? 12 is a good size. 13 is the biggest, I think, of all of them.
So here's the thing, though.
15 would be there for
realm,
sure.
right? But that's the thing is like, would it? Because, for instance, a game that came around that in that time that should be in that book that I'm assuming is not, but is Type 0 in there?
No, this is numerical, so I don't know if that's a good question.
10, 11.
Yeah. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Nothing
just straight
in between,
numerical.
so they're not doing any side stuff.
Yeah. So it's very cool. I opened it up, and the first thing I saw, because it starts with 10, is the box art for every version of 10 that was ever released.
And then you got mad because you realized that other places got way better box art than we did.
Not only better box art, but even disc art. Like some of them are just like the inside, the way the disc looks. Yeah, it's very cool. So thank you, Preston. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Both of these are incredible.
Happy
I'm
birthday.
very excited about that. Thank you. The only downside is like I don't know where I'm going to put the book. Like, because I would want to put it like over here somewhere. But this thing's heavy. I don't know that those are rated to hold how heavy this thing is.
That's coffee table book, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Maybe you're right. I might replace the comics over there on the ottoman as my little, like, put your stuff on, because I don't think the shelf will hold it. So, yeah, that is my week. And maybe that is the end of our Ramblecast.
Yeah, we can do that. We can hold the topic for next week. I'm fine with that.
210 into this thing. I only say that because
you did tease people because you said earlier that there was something that you weren't going to touch on because it was going to get into the topic.
Now they can wait until next week.
They can wait until next week. We're going to talk. I'll go ahead and say what our topic is that we will dive into next week, which is and it's good. It'll give you more time to think about it too. Are we in a golden age of gaming right now? Which I think we can kind of say we probably are. When you think about the types of ways you can game, Christian says no. I take that. We'll talk about it next week. The year that we had, right? It's one of those unique places where just timing of everything post pandemic whatnot converged into a really great era. But given all the recent layoffs, 59 days into this year, we've had 6,800 layoffs in the industry. So the question that we're going to talk about next week is this: whether this is or isn't a golden age of gaming. I do think it's actually a really good time for gaming. Is it actually kind of coming to an end? Because people in the industry are being laid off, things are slowing down, revenue over the past couple of years is not what people thought it was going to be trending in the pandemic. And because of that, we know finance is also running a lot of companies. So that's what we're going to discuss next week, which is, what's that landscape look like? Are we going to have another golden age? Or if we're in one, is it about to end moving forward? So with that, everybody, thanks for hanging out. Preston, did you have anything you want to add before we go? I always pass over to the producer.
Hey, stop by twitch.tv/testingroompod. Feel free to subscribe to us there. Big ask is, if you haven't, even if you don't care to watch them, please do us a favor and subscribe to our youtube.com/thetestingroom. We are getting some big hits on some of our videos. We would like to monetize that. We'd like to put that towards the podcast. We cannot monetize until we hit a certain threshold of subscribers. So though, if you have a second, it would mean the world to us if you went down there and follow, subscribe, bell, bullshit, whatever the fuck they say on YouTube. Do it for us, please.
Also, the subscribers will help us pop up sooner when it comes to the algorithm, so it'll make it easier for other people to also find us and discover it for the first time.
But if you want us to, start doing a little bit more stuff or anything like that, we can do all that stuff. We just need to be making money while we're doing it. But yeah, that's it.
So there we go. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We will be back next week with that topic. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
Hit it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.